Hello everyone, this is Charlie from the Bloomingdale Public Library and welcome to PowerPoint Makeover, customizing the look of your PowerPoint presentation. In our previous course, PowerPoint Crash Course, we had a look at how to create a simple slideshow with just text and images, but this time around we're going to be using PowerPoint tools to add a little bit of polish. The first tool we're going to look at is templates, and to do that I'm going to escape out of my slideshow, go to File, New, and create a new PowerPoint presentation. So when you do create a new PowerPoint presentation, you have a screen like this where you can choose a template. So each of these little rectangular graphics will represent a new template. And all a template is a pre-made slideshow that can include themes, layouts, backgrounds, and maybe even pre-made content. In other words, somebody made all the design decisions for us. So some of these will just have a create button attached to them, like this guy here. Others might actually have variants that you can preview, as well as sample slides. I'm not sure why it's inconsistent. If you don't see anything you like on the main page, and you have a connection to the internet, you can go ahead and click in the search field and search a topic. And if you're lucky, something will come back. In this case, the search term birthday turned up, looks like 9 templates. I'm going to go back to the main screen and choose a simple template and click Create. When I do that, I'm presented with the title slide. Again, depending on your template, you might get a couple of other slides attached. And it's up to you what you want to do with those. So I'm going to go ahead and add some content here. This will give you an idea of what your title and body fonts are. In this case, our title font is in all caps. Now, if you don't care for the design decisions of the template, you can change them if you like. Just keep in mind, if you manually change any colors or font styles, you won't be able to change them with the Design tab tools, which I'm going to discuss right now. But first, we'll create another slide. Depending on your template, you will have different layout options available. You might have more or less, but they'll almost always be different. I'm going to choose title and content. And if you were with us on the first course, you might notice that this slide is similar, but everything is a little smaller and centered towards the middle of the slide. So I'm going to add some content again. And we'll flesh it out a little bit. Okay, so like I was saying before, if you don't like the decisions that you made, you can go ahead and change everything on the fly with the Design tab. In the Design tab, we have some themes on the left. If you click on the little down arrow, you can see them all at once. As you roll over each one, you can get a dynamic look at what things will change to. All right, I'm going to choose this one here. You can also browse for themes online like you did before. When you choose a theme, you can also choose variants as well on the right side. And again, the colors will change dynamically. If you click the little down arrow in the right corner there, you can also change your color themes. Your font styles, and effects, which you probably won't notice any difference in anything unless you have shapes, and even then you might need to have a fill or an outline as well. And once again, you'll notice in our first screen here, the title font didn't change because we changed it manually. So again, that's probably something you want to hold off until after you're done or you're sure that you want to make the change. There's one more command I'd like to look at on the Design tab, and that's the Format Background command. When I click on Format Background, we get a side panel on the right here with a whole bunch of options. The first one is Solid Fill, which destroys our background in this case. Say if you don't like the color that they give you, you can click on the color drop-down menu, and I recommend choosing one of the theme colors. So I do something like that. That's a little more palatable to the eyes. I can still change the background with the theme variants as well. If I were to choose a color other than the theme colors, like let's say one of the standard colors, now when I use the variants, it doesn't change. So that's why I recommend sticking with theme colors whenever possible, unless you want a color to be static and not to change with the theme decisions. So again, going back to the title slide, I messed around with the font a bit, but you'll see that the font that I changed manually is still there, and that's because I set it manually, and it's no longer something I can manipulate with the Design tab. So some of our other options available here, Gradient Fill. Once again, we have a theme color that does not look very good. I'm not going to get into all the options here, but the big one here is the Gradient Stops. This is where you can change where the colors blend and which colors you have. If you want to pull a stop out, you can click on Remove Stop. Now you just have two colors here. If you want to add one, it's just the other button here. To change the color of a stop, again, you just use the color drop-down menu and choose something that actually works with our font color. There we go, a little better. Again, you can go through the rest of the options on your own. The next big option here is the picture or texture fill. And when I do that, we get a texture fill in the background. If you don't like it, you can go to the texture option here, click on the drop-down menu, and choose a different one. That's a bit better. If you prefer to put your own picture back there, you can either search for one on your computer by clicking File and navigating to the picture on your computer, or you can search online. If you've had a look at my RetroPie course, I actually used a picture of a RetroPie for the background. In this case, I'm just going to do my default cars search, see what comes up. And there we go. Now we have an image in our background. If you do something like that, you probably want to do something with the text or the text boxes as well to help pull it out from the background, and I will show you how to do that in just a bit. Next option down is Pattern Fill, which these patterns are probably all from the 80s, and just to help make it a little more distinct, I'm going to change some of the colors, and you can change the foreground color or the background color, but they're all pretty ugly. Some slides might have pictures in the background as part of the template, or maybe some shapes. If you wanted to hide those, you just click the Hide Background Graphics. And I could probably show you that right now. So this template has a nice little box here for your slide numbers. If I didn't want that there, I click Hide Background Graphics and boom, it's gone. And apparently that white background was also part of a background graphic, and that is gone as well. So once you're done and you like the slide background that you have set, you can go ahead and set all of your slides to that same background by clicking Apply to All at the bottom. And if you get a little too creative, messing around with your colors a bit, you can also reset the background by hitting the Reset button, just like that. And that is all of our options for formatting the background. Next, I'd like to talk about transitions. Transitions are just animations where the next slide covers the current slide. These are generally fun to play around with, but I recommend keeping them short, simple, and consistent throughout your slideshow if you don't choose to just leave them out entirely. There might be a reason where you would change your transitions in the middle of a slideshow, like perhaps for a different section of your slideshow, or maybe there's something on a particular slide that will call for it, but otherwise, again, if you draw any attention to your transitions, that's usually a bad thing. To add a transition to your slide, all you need to do is go to the Transition tab and choose a transition from the selection on the left. To see more, just click the down arrow in the lower right corner, and you can see the rest of your options. I'm going to go ahead and choose Uncover, and once I do, you see we get a nice little preview. If you want to see it again, click the Preview command on the left side of the ribbon. Almost every transition has options. If you click on the Effect Options command, you can see this one can come from several different directions. So I'll choose from the top right, and once I do, once again, I get another preview. To the right of those options, we have a couple more. We've got sound. I generally recommend not adding sound to your transitions unless it is very relevant to the slide you're adding it to. If you click on the down arrow, you can see your menu of options here, which I think are the same that I remember seeing in Office 97. Otherwise, if you have your own sound, you can go down to Other Sounds and browse to your sound on your computer. I'm not sure what file types are okay, but I know the ones that they use are .wav files. You can also choose how to advance the slide. On mouse click is generally what you want when you're giving a presentation. If you want the slides to advance automatically, you can click the after box here and set a duration. So a place I've seen this would be like for an anniversary or somebody's birthday. You can create a slideshow presentation and just let it run on a television screen, and it's something people can talk about. So once you have your transitions the way you like and you want to put it on the rest of your slideshow, all you got to do is click Apply to All, and it will apply to the rest of the slides on the slideshow. You can tell if a slide has a transition on it in the slide navigator because there'll be a little star underneath the number, which is kind of hard to see here, but a little star underneath the number on the left side. And that's all I've got on transitions. Next, we're going to talk about how to work with objects. And this is where we really start to take control over how our slide looks and its general layout. I'm going to go ahead and create a new slide. I'm going to choose Title Only, and we'll throw in a title. Okay, so just like before, when I start typing in the text box, we have these little circles around the sides. So I'm going to call them handles. And when I start pulling on the ones on the sides, we're changing the width of the text box. The ones on the top and the bottom will let us change the height. The arrow at the top is how you rotate. If you choose a handle on the corner, you'll affect both the height and the width at the same time. If you wanted to maintain the aspect ratio between the height and width, you can go ahead and hold the Shift key while you do it. And now it will maintain its height and width ratio. If you wanted to move a text box or whatever object you're looking at, you can see when the cursor is over the edge but not on any of the handles, you get a little arrow crosshair, and that will let us move the object. I'm going to straighten that out a little bit, throw it back up at the top. You'll also notice anytime you have an object selected, you also have this Format tab that magically appears, and it's going to be different for most of the objects. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and when I do, you'll see a whole bunch of options here. I'm going to only have a look at a few of them. So in the Shape Styles group, on the left side, we have a whole bunch of pre-formatted text box options, and these are going to change depending on what theme you have selected. Next to that, we have shape fill, which again, you can just go ahead and change the fill of the box. Shape outline will let you change the outline of the box. If you have trouble seeing it, click on shape outline again and go back down to weight. Now you can clearly see we have a red outline. You can also have a look at shape effects, and there's a whole bunch there, which again is for you to explore. Next to that is Word Art Styles group, and that's just the same thing except for the text within the text box. So again, we have a whole bunch of styles based on the theme. Or you can adjust everything individually from the fill to the outline to any effects you want to add. So now let's go ahead and insert an image. I'm going to do that with the Insert tab. And under the Insert tab, you'll find pretty much every object available to you that you can add to a slide. I'm going to choose Online Pictures, search for a dog, and we're going to choose the guy with the sunglasses. As you see when I do that, once again, we have our handles all around the edges here. And we have a Format tab. It's automatically selected, and you'll notice there's a bunch of different options versus what we had with the text box. So right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these corner handles, hold down the Shift key, and shrink it down a bit. There we go. So there's a whole bunch of things to look at here, and I'll let you experiment on your own time here. Something to note is under Picture Styles, it works just like the text box, where you can choose various different outlining styles. You have some more specific options to the right. The picture layout is more for working with word art, which I'm not going to talk about today. One last thing to mention with images is the ability to crop. Just select crop from the menu, move the little dashed lines around, click crop, and there you go. There's a few more things I'd like to cover with regards to working with objects. So let's go ahead and go to the Insert tab, choose Shapes, and click on the arrow here. Now you can either just click and it'll give you a default sized arrow, otherwise you can click and drag and it'll let you control the size and shape of the arrow. Arrows also have a few extra handles, as do other shapes. And when you click and drag on the yellow arrows, or the yellow handles, it'll let you change the shape of your shape without changing the height and width. Something else you can do with shapes, if you just start typing, you'll notice that we get text, basically making a shape act like a text box. It's just formatted a little differently. In fact, if you look up at our Format tab, you'll see the options are basically the same. So that's kind of nice that you can treat text boxes and shapes almost interchangeably. If we go to the Home tab, make sure the shape is selected here, you'll notice that we have options for cut, copy, and paste, and those will work just the way you expect. You can also use Control-D to duplicate, which is basically like copying and pasting. And when I do that, I get another copy of our shape. Oops. It's just slightly offset. I'm going to do a Control-D again. And now we have 3 arrows, albeit it's kind of hard to choose between them. So if we wanted to align things properly, there's a couple of things we can do. I'm going to move our dog over here, make him a little bit bigger. Now let's say we wanted to make this middle arrow lined up with the middle of the dog. I can either click and drag. As you may notice as I do so, there's all sorts of dashed lines all over the place to show me where I'm aligned with what objects. This would be aligned with the middle of the dog, if you can see the line. Otherwise, if you select both objects you want to arrange, you can either use the Arrange command in the Home tab, or you can use one of the Format tabs. We have one for the shape and one for the image. And under these Format tabs, we have an Arrange group, where it's the same options under the Arrange command of the Home tab. It's just spread out a little bit more. So I'm going to go to Align, go to Align Middle, and now the arrow and the dog are lined up on their middle line. Let's go ahead and use the top arrow and the dog and align them along the top. I'm going to use the bottom arrow and the dog again and align them along the bottom. So that still looks kind of messy, so let's go ahead and align our arrows as well. What I'm going to do here is select them all, align, and we can align them along the left or the right. And there you go. Now our arrows are aligned. And if we wanted to move these around all together, as you can see, I've had issues choosing one at a time. What we can do is select Group, click on Group, and now we can move these all together. Not just that, we can also format them together as well. So if we wanted to make them a different color, we can do it all at once. Stretch them out. That looks kind of cool. When you're all done doing that, you can ungroup them, and we have control of each individually once again. I'm actually going to go ahead and give these each a different color. Oop. Just to demonstrate something else. And that's the stacking order. Basically, every time you add an object to a slide, it gets stacked on top of everything else. If you wanted to adjust how things are stacked on top of each other, for example, you can go to the Format tab, and you have Bring Forward and Backward. So if I click Bring Forward a couple times, you can see the dog come to the front. You can also do Bring to Front, and it'll do it all at once. Same with Send Backwards. You can also send it back all at once, just like that. Hopefully I've instilled some excitement and confidence for you to create your own slide layout should the need arise, because it's time to cover our final topic, which is animations. And animations basically work just like transitions, except they apply to a single object on a slide versus the whole slide itself. Now, with enough experience and time and effort and creativity, you can basically turn a slide into an interactive animated cartoon, but we're not going to go quite so in depth today. In fact, there's just a single implementation of animations that I'd like to show you, and it's only because it's so easy and quick and something that you see a lot in other people's presentations, and it really increases the look and effectiveness of a presentation that I want to include it in today's course here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the second slide here, and then select the text box with the bulleted list. And with that selected, I'm going to click on the Animations tab, and click on the little down arrow in the lower right corner here. And from here, I want to pick any of the options in the top group, the entrance group. I'm going to choose Fly In. And when I do that, you see everything starts animating one bullet point at a time. When you actually give your presentation, it's actually going to require a mouse click to advance each bullet point, unless you're setting the slideshow to advance automatically. So again, just like the transitions, you have some options for choosing how things work. You have some other things to look at, like duration and triggers. I'm not even going to get into any of that right now, but I will show you how this actually looks when you give the presentation by clicking on Start Slideshow. Again, I'm clicking to go to the next slide, and you see, unlike the preview, nothing appears on its own. Instead, I have to click. And with each mouse click, you get another bullet point. So again, you see it in a lot of professional presentations, and it's very effective for keeping your audience with you, and it looks kind of slick as well. It's so easy to implement, I figured it was worth throwing in today. But that is all I have for you. I hope you learned something and have a wonderful day.